So we're going to do a quick behind the scenes look at what happened yesterday at the 2021 Pursuit Weightlifting Open. First and foremost, I would like to point out that it was fantastic to have another in-person event on the calendar. The meet calendar for the Colorado athletes has been a little thin. We had Lord of the Lifts earlier this year, but other than that and this event, we've only really had states and the state games. So positive note, we're pretty fortunate being able to actually do these things during the pandemic and have in-person events like this, because I know some other areas are not having this at all. So I'm very grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the people that put these events on. So Matt, Joey, Jackie, you guys are doing great. But it was just nice to have an in-person event on the calendar. So shout out to Matt from Pursuit Weightlifting and his crew for running a excellent event. It was fun to lift at. It was fun to volunteer for too. I'm glad I got to do that. And it's great just to be around those people again, be around the weightlifting community, be with other weightlifters, and share the platform with them. So that's the first thing I want to mention. Second thing, I'm going to talk about the day yesterday. I'm going to talk about kind of the leading up to the event. We'll talk about RJ's training and what happened with his cycles leading up to it and what we were focusing on the day of. We'll talk about weigh-ins, because I think some of you are curious about whether or not I made weight. I did not. And then we'll kind of break down the results of the event, and we'll end there because I think that's a good spot to stop. So first and foremost, leading up to this event, the last in-person event we did with RJ was in October, and that was at the Colorado State Championships. And if any of you follow us or any of you remember that event, RJ ended up missing his first two snatches and gave me a very good amount of gray hair, which I shouldn't have at this point because I'm still relatively young. He made his third, but the goal, especially since that was something that happened, we wanted to improve consistency. The main thing we tried to do is we wanted to change technique a little bit to help with a stronger initiation from the floor to ensure better positioning from that point, so the lifts got more efficient. He's very strong. He's a very strong squatter. He's very strong at pulling as well. So getting him to just kind of hit those positions more efficiently, more consistently, was going to help his lifting in the long run, and is helping his lifting in the long run after what you guys saw yesterday. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But that was the main focus. We made some technical changes. So the first step was just to ensure the technical changes were happening, and that happened over a couple cycles. We're still kind of working on them. There's some things that we still want to change that aren't quite perfect, but we're about 85, 90% there with what I want him to do on his pull. So that was the first step. And then after that, once we had most of it there, it was just improving consistency and improving the minimums. So basically what we knew he could hit in his sleep if he showed up to the event. Just from what happened yesterday, I think that went really, really well. We're able to get closer to the top end of the 90s range without much question. I think the next thing coming is hitting over 100 consistently, and then pushing into the middle of the 100 range, maybe 105 to 110 eventually. That's kind of the long goal there for snatch. Clean and jerk is mainly just maintaining his strength and his pull on that, and then addressing some technical things in the jerk that we worked on. A lot of it had to do with his dip and drive and getting pulled forward in the dip a little bit, the drive just a little bit. His dip was fine. He would get pulled forward in the drive, and then changing his grip just a little bit on the overhead position for the jerk too. That was something else I kind of wanted to do for a while, and we finally got it in. So I think it definitely improved his overhead stability there. But okay, so that was the main goal leading up, was A, just to have a fun meet, B, to kind of harp on those things of consistency, technical accuracy, at heavier intensities. Just that was the kind of goal for yesterday. Leading up to the meet for weigh-ins, I did not make weight. It was stupid, and I'll admit that on my part, to go from last competing in August at the state games, injuring my hand in November, and attempting to compete and get back down to my weight class at 81, where I normally sit, following just maybe 8 weeks of, actually maybe it was 6 weeks, I can't remember exactly, but a couple cycles at least of me adding the classic lifts back in. We just reintroduced snatches because I couldn't do that for a long time because of my hand, and cleans were okay, clean jerks were fine, no issues there, but we're talking about the weigh-ins. So the night beforehand, according to my scale, as you guys have noticed as I go throughout this, I had some issues with the scale I was using, and I'm pretty sure it was heavy, and I thought it was dead on. I was calibrating it, just double checking numbers and stuff, but obviously there was some point where I did not do that correctly. And the night before, I was weighing about 82 and a half, so it was about a full 1.5 kilos over according to my scale. So my strategy, what I was going to do, and what I actually ended up doing was I was going to take a couple hot baths. I did a couple cycles of 20 minutes in a hot bath with a towel over my head to kind of stimulate some sweating. And once the water got cold at that point, I'd drain the tub, add more hot water in it, get back into it, do the same thing. I did that a couple times, and I finished off with a cold shower to kind of get my system to come back down a little bit. And I managed to lose about 0.5 kilo. So I finished the night off and I was closer to 82. So I thought, maybe in my sleep I would lose a little bit, obviously because just a respiration and stuff like that while you're sleeping. I woke up, and according to my scale, I was 81.6. So I was like, hell yeah, I got this. I'm gonna, stuff some Sour Patch Kids in my gums. I'm gonna spit. I got a coffee cup from a gas station, and I managed to. It was a 16-ounce cup. I filled it about half of the way with spit. And yes, that sounds gross, but in the past when I've done this, I managed to drop a good amount of weight. I would say maybe a 1/2 pound to a pound, which is basically, essentially what I had left, through spitting. So that was kind of like I was gonna get there. I was gonna cover that through spitting. And when we got to the event, RJ made weight because he's a more responsible athlete than his coach, and I did not. It was 81.5 when I stepped on, and at that point I was like, I'm done. This is stupid. I literally didn't have to cut for this event since it was my first event since August of last year, and I weighed heavy. So I lifted as an 89, and I was the lightest 89 that day. I think I was 81, like I said, 81.5. I rehydrated, and I think I did that relatively well, so I want to share that with you guys eventually in a piece of content. We'll do that in a Tip Tuesday video maybe, for those of you who like to do water cuts. Did make weight, lifted as an 89. RJ made weight, he lifted as a 73 like he normally did. And when we got into the actual lifting portion of the session, the goal for RJ was we were going to list him at 95, and we were going to see how he looked in the back. He was going to take 95, and then if 95 went well in the back, he was going to essentially open at 98. And I was going to open at 93 because I was just trying to get back on the platform. I wanted to get a total. So I finished my last warm-up attempt a couple before he did. And I went out, I hit 93, and I saw him miss 95 in the back, and he took it. And that was kind of his indicator of like I mentioned, if I hit this, I'm gonna go 98. If I don't, I'm gonna stick at 95. But he didn't come back and make it in the back anyway. So we stuck at 95 for him. I hit my first at 93. I went to 96, so I got him on the platform. I didn't have to worry about, sitting in front of him and making him rest any longer because it had been pretty long getting to him anyway. And he comes out and he smokes 95. Probably the best mid 90s snatch I think I've seen him hit. There was speed on it. It was technically accurate, and there was a lot of power there, and I was very pleased, to say the least. So he hit 95. I went out and I hit 96, and then at that point, we took him to 98, I believe. So we took him to 98. He missed 98, and then we took him to 100. Meanwhile, in the middle of that, I hit 98. I went 3 for 3 on snatch, which I was very pleased with because of my my hand and whatever. Didn't quite get back to 100, but we're working on it. We're getting there. He went out and he smoked 100. Like easier than the 95 he had hit before on his first attempt. So we went. We had a much better snatch session at this event than we did at the state meet where he went 1 for 3 and gave me a bunch of gray hair. So I'm very proud of RJ for that. Heading into the break, he was kind of towards the middle of the pack, and I think I was just a little bit in front of him because my goal was to open lighter, just to get a total. Like I mentioned, I keep saying that. So I opened at 115, and I didn't have any issues with that. I hit it pretty well, no issues in my hand. Clean felt really good, which I was very surprised with. And I pushed myself to 120 because he was going to open at 120, and he did. He smoked it. After that, I mean, he had a great meet. He ended the meet just the way that I would want him to end it. I went and hit my second attempt at 120 after he hit his attempt at 120. So I was 2 for 3 at that point. And then I went to 125 because his second attempt was going to be at 125. So he went out, he smoked 125, came back, I took it, I hit it, which I was very surprised with because I went 15, 20, 25, and that was about 10 kilos heavier than I had hit since we reintroduced classic lifts into the training. So I was very pleased. So I went 6x6. There's no videos, absolutely no videos, because I was more focused on trying to get RJ on the platform, and I cared more about what he did today or that day than what I was going to do. I could have asked somebody to record, but at that point, I mean, I was just happy to hit a total, and I was happy that I went 6x6. It would have been great to see it, but at the same time, RJ was my main priority, and I could really give a shit about, if I, got a video up in my lift. So he hits 125, and then I asked him after that, at that point, because I was done, and I was like, do you want to go to 130? And he'd already done 130 on the platform, and that was, I think, one of his first years, like his first year with us. I remember him hitting that, I think, in the Springs at one of the Pinnacle meets. And he's like, why don't we go to 132? And I'm like, fucking awesome. Let's shoot for the moon. You've already got a total. You did really well today. And I mean, in terms of like what I wanted him to do. So a 7 kilo jump, I would never normally recommend that. But for him, he went out and he hit his clean easier than he hit 125. So for me, that tells me on tired legs, he has way more than what he's actually clean and jerking right now. And I'm very, very excited about that. He said his legs felt strong. So I'm very, excited about things that are going to come down the line because of that. And his jerk overhead positioning was pretty solid. Footwork was a little funky, and we've kind of talked about that already, and he knows that. So not the most beautiful jerk he's ever hit, but the fact that he smashed a clean and took care of a jerk on his final attempt that was 2 kilos above his competition, all-time competition PR on the platform, that was a pretty damn good day. So I told RJ, I'll tell him again here, I'm very proud of how he did, and I'm very, very happy with where he's at in his training right now. We're going to stay healthy, and we're going to lead him into Masters Worlds, things that are coming up for him. We're going to do some lower intensity technical work just to refine some of the positioning we've been working on. And then following that, we're going to do some higher intensity work with some higher intensity singles just to get him ready for Worlds so we can have a good showing there. So that's coming for those of you that are kind of programming nerds. That's coming for him. So yeah, all in all, great day. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, great job, Matt, for running a very well-run event. It was great to be up and around your people and just the entire Colorado weightlifting community that was there during those sessions. And I hope we run another one here relatively soon because that was fun just to be in person again. And yeah, so long story short, RJ had a great fucking day. Pardon my French. I went 6x6 and did much better on clean jerk than I thought I was going to do. But, I mean, couldn't have gone better for RJ on that day. And I'm very happy with it. Very happy coach, very proud coach. And I think that, yeah, it was a good way to start the weekend. So, hope you guys are having a happy Easter Sunday. Thank you for listening to me rant and talk for about 15 minutes. I will talk to you guys at some point this week for our tip video. And until then,